Welcome to From the Bone Vault, coming to you live from an old midnight lair. I'm Gil.
And I'm Levi.
And I'm Justin.
And guys, we watched Small Soldiers for mini, oh my gosh, I can't say it. Mini Menace Month. There we go. Got it out on the second try.
Yay, good way to go, Gil.
Yeah, guys, we watched 1998. 98?
Yeah.
Oh, this was so late in the year. Oh, this makes my brain hurt. The 1998 classic film.
Okay. We're going there.
Small Soldiers. No, I'm not. I'm lying. I say that tongue through my cheek. I'm holding it. It's so far.
I mean,
I know.
I think giving it a really bad rep is not it's not the best movie, but there's some very neat things about it.
Yeah, there's some redeeming qualities here. We're definitely going to get there. But first things first, normally I would say, hey, Levi, hit me with some facts. But unfortunately, we had some scheduling things here, so we're just going to kind of bumble through it a little bit tonight, guys. So no biggie. I think the first thing we ought to probably zero in on, and I think this is the biggest strength of this film, is the cast.
Oh,
well, before that, Gil, I want to mention who the director is, because the one fact that I have, you didn't let me say.
Oh, okay.
Do you guys remember who directed this? Did you notice?
Joe Dante?
Yes, from Gremlins, from our first podcast.
There's a Gremlins reference early in the movie.
Yeah, there's a few.
Yeah,
there's a big one.
They're scattered. They're scattered in this film. They are there.
But yeah, he was the director. I do have the cast here. I can read out some of the cast, which I don't know if you guys were like me, but every time someone came on screen, I was like, holy crap, it's him. Holy crap, it's him.
Dude, this whole film.
Yeah.
Well, David Cross is the one that really got me because he looks so young and vibrant.
Yeah.
Yes,
he hasn't been Funcade yet. But yeah, we have David Cross as Erwin Wayfair. And Jay Moore as Larry Benson with, I'm pretty sure, some hair dye in.
Oh, that has to be.
He's like blonde, and in this movie, he's got black hair.
No. He's not like blonde. He's like, I should say, he's not dark haired. He's like, I dip my hair in ink.
It's like he has like Just for Men in.
Yeah, exactly. But to keep the Gremlins theme going real quick, we do have the Futtermans, both of the Futtermans in this movie. We have Dick Miller as Joe the truck driver, and Jackie Joseph was the wife late in the movie when the speakers were blasting Spice Girls, and she was talking crap about Phil Hartman.
I almost fell out of my chair. I'm like, I forgot Dick Miller was in this movie, and he's not being racist in this one.
No.
Thanks, Dick.
But some other notable names we have Gregory Smith, who plays Alan Abernathy, and I think he's on I had it written down, but Everwood or one of those shows.
He's on a police drama too.
Oh, okay.
Oh, is he now?
Yeah, in 2010 he was on a police drama called, I can't remember what it was, but it was like like most of his IMDb is like that right now. And is that the kid from Everwood though? Is that correct?
I think so. This is the level of depth we go into on this show, folks. I hope you appreciate it. No, Gregory, I saw him Everwood. Yeah, he's in Everwood.
He is.
Yeah.
And The Patriot.
He was in The Patriot, yeah. We're both looking at IMDb. Anyway. We also have Kirsten Dunst as Christy Fimple. And the Abernathys, the dad, Kevin Dunn, I definitely recognized him from a lot of, what would you say, 80s, 90s comedies. And
you mean, wait, he doesn't have a name. He shouldn't even have a character name. He should literally just be listed as Dad.
Yeah,
he's
always the
everything.
dad.
Well, one of the things...
Transformers.
One of the things that's funny is that Kirsten Dunst is... I want to say she's top billing. Like, she's the first person you see on screen as far as the cast goes, and they do the credits.
Oh, really? Wow, I didn't notice that.
Did she have another role another significant role? There's not one that jumps out to me between this and Interview with the Vampire.
Jumanji.
Oh, yeah.
That was that mid-90s, I think, maybe?
That's like 96, 97.
Yeah, that was right before this.
I mean, if you think about it, she's probably the most famous person in this movie, except for Phil Hartman.
It depends on what circles you run in, and if you're counting voices, because obviously we have Phil Hartman, like you said. We also have, before I move on to the really what I consider famous people.
Dennis
We
Leary?
also have Dennis Leary was Gil Mars, basically the same character that Lex Luthor's dad played in Gremlins 2, but a little
I
goofier.
thought that too.
And they had almost the same logo, which was funny. The little crushed.
I thought I was
globe that
about
you
to
didn't
watch
like.
a product brought to you by Clamp. I thought
Maybe
that
it's
was
a
coming
shared
in.
universe deal. Like this is all
That would
just
be
the
cool.
one universe.
Hey,
This is
it
like
might
his
be
cousin.
because this may be where the next guy I think Levi was about to mention. Who's the next cast member that stands out?
Robert Picardo, the doctor.
Not
He was
Ricardo's
the-
in this, but he's very, very hard to spot this time.
Especially after he sneezes in his clean suit.
By now, his hair is gone, and I think that sneeze was real. I think they're just like, fuck it, keep it rolling.
That was the funniest part of the movie to me.
That was
He
Oh, no.
sneezes in his
The
clean
rant.
suit.
His
The
rant
funniest
was
part of the
pretty
movie to me was, I don't know, there was a part where the bike, the one little guy got caught under the bike. And his nuts almost hit the wheel.
I think that was Nick Nitro. I think he was the
Their
one that
names
had
are
the
all
Wilhelm
terrible,
scream. when
and
he
I
got
do have
blown apart.
something about the names to say. Like, I can probably say it right now.
Go for it.
But go for the rest of the cast list because like the voice actors for a lot of these toys were
insane.
They were just a lot of old actors from like the earlier era, and some of them from war movies and stuff like that even.
Well, they were actually the original cast of the Dirty Dozen.
Exactly.
And the Gorgons were played by the cast of Spinal Tap. And so...
Didn't realize that.
Yeah. I'll read off their names here. So the leader of the Commando Elite was Chip Hazard. That was voiced by Tommy Lee Jones. Pretty easy to spot.
Yeah.
Such a
Let's see.
distinctive voice.
Butch Meathook was played by Jim Brown. Kip Killigan was played by Ernest Borgnine, which I could kind of hear that at times. Link Static was played by Bruce Dern. Brick Bazooka was George Kennedy. Yes.
Uh-huh.
And
No, I was
Nick
gonna
Nitro
say
was Clint Walker.
The Ernest Borgnine, I think they gave him the character that had that nice underbite, kind of like Ernest Borgnine has.
I think so.
What's funny about it also is that they couldn't seem to, like, at first it was just Tommy Lee Jones who was just spouting off, fucking
cliches from every war movie ever made.
Everybody would just say one, like, when they felt like it. Like, they would just, I'll throw this out there and bounce it off the wall, see what sticks.
The entire all of the dialogue in this film was like they went to TV tropes and pulled out all of the canned responses. Look at the dialogue that the dad and the son have later on. They're literally saying the cheesiest lines possible to each other back.
I don't know what's worse, this or Mr. Freeze's dialogue from Batman.
Mr. Freeze's dialogue is much worse.
Mr. Freeze's dialogue, yeah. Like the other day, Levi made me think of this. The other day, there was this meme getting passed around that was like basically this child molestation joke or something as a meme, and people were like, I'm not sure what's worse, this or the Minions. I was like, the Minions are still worse. Like, the Minions are always going to be worse.
How did I remind you of child molestation?
Because you were like, I was like, I don't know what's worse, and you were like, Mr. Freeze.
Okay. All right. Sorry, I reminded you of child porn.
The child molestation joke wasn't funny at all, but the Minions aren't either.
Oh,
well, no.
Justin.
I think we're far off from where we were before.
Well,
so I'm just going to jump into
I do have a bridge to that. Speaking of Minions,
go for it.
The movie's made by DreamWorks. That's why it looks so good.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, the effects were good.
When I looked the year up, I was like, Kirsten Dunst looks small, and this can't be like the 2000s. So why does this look so good? And I was like, 98? Like, what the hell is going on? Like, this looks really good for the time.
Right. It was good.
I'm here to tell you, though, we get back into this cast, though, Levi, there's a couple of other things on here that, like I was like, my brain just kept exploding like yours, man. It's just...
Okay.
Please, hit the rest of this list, because I want people to hear this if they didn't know it.
First, I'll go with the Gorgons. I'm going to save Archer for last, but we have the members of Spinal Tap, Christopher Guest, who is the creator and progenitor of a lot of the funny movies that include Michael McKean and people whose names I can't think of, Eugene Levy, like Best in Show and A Mighty Wind, those type of movies. He played Slam Fist and Scratch It. And Michael McKean, who most recently you might have seen in Better Call Saul, he did a stint on that show. Very good show if you haven't checked it out. He played Insaniac and Freakenstein. And The Simpsons' own Harry Shearer played Punch It. And it says that there was an uncredited voice for Ocula. I assume that was the big I. That was actually Jim Cummings, the voice of Winnie the Pooh.
Well,
So
who was Archer?
Archer was Frank Langella.
AKA Skeletor.
Yes,
Wow.
Skeletor. That's why I was saving him for last.
Well, I do have two more names that you might have missed because they're very, 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 very. Christina
I know what you're
Ricci
gonna say.
and
Go
Sarah
for it.
Michelle Gellar.
Yes, they were the Gwendy
my
dolls.
Head literally fell off my body. I'm like, how are you gonna have the two of them, like two real deal 90s icon females as these voices and not put them as billing on this film? Like, point that out. Like, I looked at all the promotional material. I'm like, they did nothing. They didn't even mention that. I'm like, holy
Well,
shit.
it's funny too because when you watch it, I didn't really scroll down that far, and then I was like, I heard McGellar. I heard
she's
Geller,
easy
and then I was like,
to
okay,
spot.
wait a minute, what? And then I went and looked, and I was like, oh, it's Christina Ricci also. And
Mm-hmm.
I think that it might have been one of those. There was a thing in the '90s that was more common where a movie would sometimes just put a person in it and not credit
Right.
them, and it was really common because people didn't really go for top billing all the time back then. It was just
Right.
you went to see the movie.
Well, there's another uncredited that's listed that, again, I caught when I was watching the film again, is Sherry O'Terry
Right.
as the...
Yeah, I saw that one too.
Globotech operator. So I'm like, oh my god, this movie is like, I'm blinded with the amount of stars in this film.
But who is this movie for? Like, I remember
a
it
good
being
question.
a kids movie,
Question.
but it's not really a kids movie.
It turns into a like body horror movie involving dolls at one point. Like,
Well, we're jumping ahead on that one because I mean,
Okay.
But along that line, when you talk about the film, it does go from this very much like Dante trying to recreate what he did with Gremlins, very much, and all the different nods we see to Gremlins throughout the film. Hi, I'm a kid and I'm kind of quirky and I have all this stuff in my room and my parents don't get me and I've
Well,
got
that's
these
every
friends
kid
from another place.
in a movie.
Sure, but Dante, this was his thing. And you go from that to, just like Levi was talking about, the movie just takes this almost dark comedy turn where it's like...
it did
okay,
take a dark comedy
we're
turn.
good. Well, that's what I'm saying. Is it's like it goes down there and it's
Yeah.
like, what were they thinking? Did this movie get batted around the writer's room and they go, no, this is the film I want to make. No. Okay,
Yeah.
Steve, Jerry, we're going to compromise. We'll let you both be on the same film.
You know what it seemed like to me? Of course, this was a few years after Toy Story, and some of the preliminary stuff I read about it, people were comparing it to Toy Story. I think it has nothing to do with Toy Story besides toys coming to life. Other than that, the plot to me has absolutely nothing to do with it. So
There are
DreamWorks
some
might have been...
There are some shot similarities, though.
Well, yeah, there are, because, I mean, it's toys and the bike and everything. I
Especially
understand.
with Toy
But I'm
Story
saying-
in the part where the dolls are all being worked on by Sid. Like, there's a
True,
lot
yeah.
of that with the Barbie
I'm talking
dolls.
more story-wise. Like,
Yeah, I agree.
And my point was going to be that the story is nothing like Toy Story, and I think that's one reason that this movie didn't fare as well. And it did have some great effects, and it did have some fun scenes, but they were sort of just orbiting around this sort of tenuous script that they have, and there were some cool moments, but it was almost like 3 or 4 different movies were happening in this one movie. Whereas Toy Story, you have an extremely cohesive plot, and it develops and it has heart, and it's paired with that Pixar animation that's so excellent. This had the great effects and everything, and it kind of brushed up against a story at some times, but it just didn't have the heart, and in multiple meanings, it didn't have the heart that other show did. And I think that was one of its big failings, is that it didn't know quite what it was. You know, is it a cheesy, 90s kids movie? Is it a monster movie? Who knows?
I think
my understanding of this is that it was originally aimed at teenagers, but Dante had to. But they wanted to make a toy sale, so Dante had to go back through and tone everything back. I mean,
that makes sense.
I mean,
he had to rein himself in.
There's a few dams in there. There's a few things that are
a couple times
that are references that just seemed sort of out there for a kid to get. And I was going to say that one of the things that got this movie in trouble, I remember, back in '98 when it came out, there was a Thurston High School shooting in Springfield, Oregon by Kip Kinkle, and the Kip Killigan name was similar to that name, and so that got a lot of trouble in the media. Because that was back when every high school shooting turned into like this media fiasco where they like ran around and looked for any excuse to blame anything nearby for what had happened. And so that was one of the things that happened that I remember there being like controversy surrounding. And it was so much so to the point that I want to say that some towns wouldn't play the movie, or that it wasn't being sold in certain stores or something like that. I don't remember all, but and it's funny because it was the age of the internet already, but it's like this sort of black hole, like late 90s, you really can't find much from the old internet at that point. So when I was looking for the information, because I remembered it, I could find bits and scraps here and there, but I couldn't find like a news article because they didn't really exist at that time.
I actually see something here. I have a quick note I jotted down. It's specifically around the Kip Killigan toy that's in there. That Oregon shooting was actually carried out by somebody named Kip Kinkle. Yeah, so it was a very similar name.
Yeah.
That's unfortunate, man. But I mean, I think back to the point you were making, Levi, about this being very similar to Toy Story. I think with the cast this had, with the amount of money it had, with the advertising it had, with the graphics it had, with the concept, this could have been a franchise. This could have been something bigger. But there was just something missing. And to me it was, I could zero in on Archer being a kind of lovable character, but the rest of the Gorgons, the heroes of the film,
they weren't
likable. They weren't likable. They weren't relatable at all. Even the crazy kind of zany one that was basically like the crazy gremlin from Gremlins 2.
Daffy
just wasn't relatable at all.
Right.
I mean, none of those, you didn't want to. I mean, Archer I liked. He had some heart and some definition of character. But the rest of them were generic. They were. I
think that it wasn't just that they weren't relatable. It was just that so many characters were just saying references and not really doing anything else. And it makes you sort of hate them because they're not really interacting with each other. Like, they don't interact for each other's sake. They just kind of speak past each other. And it's almost like how when you have like a bunch of small children that are like 3 or 4, they don't have discussions. They just talk. And like they're talking past each other. And it was sort of like watching that. And like they didn't make them childlike. Like, they could have done that, made them childlike since they were like new to being alive. And they didn't really make them intelligent or likable or even different personality.
I think
like they would just speak differently.
They tried to go for the childlike innocence with their whole window thing, like what is beyond that? What is beyond that? But it never came across because the characters themselves, like you said, Justin, they were talking at each other. There was no development. They didn't talk to each other. There's no relationship. I mean, again, go back to Toy Story. Woody had this relationship with the Slinky Dog, and there was this interaction, and you felt there was a history with these characters, a camaraderie. The way the dialogue was built, you felt that connection. These were just some toys thrown in a bucket.
It's kind of like, like people talk about the Bechdel test. It's like there needs to be a test of, do these characters speak to each other? Does any character talk about anything that's not directly related to the plot or just not directly a reference? And they don't. They never do.
No.
And then they don't even really have a development. Like, they go from being like, well, we're designed to lose, to all of a sudden like just being like, oh, we have to go help. We can do it this time
for no reason.
Right. Yeah.
Right. I agree. And when they took that turn, I was like, okay, because I remember I didn't see this movie when it first came out, and then I remember people talking about it with fond memories. I watched it maybe 10 years ago or more.
When it first came out. Me too.
No. I didn't see it when it first came out.
Oh, I'm sorry.
10 years ago would be 2007, not 1998. But I saw it quite a few years after it came out. But I had been under the impression that the soldiers were the good guys and the Gorgons were the bad guys. And somebody was telling me, oh, no, the Gorgons are the good guys. And rewatching the movie now, I'm like, the Gorgons are almost like neutral characters until the last like 10 minutes of the movie. Even Archer, and like you were saying, Gil, he kind of becomes a little bit lovable, but it's very difficult.
Tenuous.
Yeah, it's just like, oh, okay, they could have given him a little more something to go on, and they touch upon it, like you said, in the window scene where Alan's talking about, don't you feel the wind? Oh yeah, you can't feel it. And I'm like, that's a very deep thing to talk about, and they kind of they deal with it in that scene, but then beyond that they don't really show that development. And like Justin said, all of a sudden they're like, hey, we're not going to lose anymore. Well, why not? We need to see your development a little bit.
Exactly.
And none of the characters are really all that brave, like, until like, honestly, once he rescues Kirsten Dunst, whose name is actually just like Christy, I think. Once he rescues her, she kind of takes over for him. She's always driving him around. She was
one of the most kick-ass characters in this movie.
Her and the mom with the tennis racket.
Yes, Alan's mom. Alan's mom. Yes.
Well,
Alan's mom was weird. She was totally weird.
She was weird, but she was very... The other... Christy's mom was weirder.
Christy's mom was weird. She's like on pills or something.
Yeah. Like, that's the impression I got, Justin. I was like, is she on pills? Is that what they're trying to say?
What did I write it down? I wrote down, is Christy's mom on pills? Because,
I wrote something similar down. And her dad and her mom sleep through almost this entire interaction. So I think they must be sharing the pills.
No, they were drugged.
Oh, I missed that.
You don't remember that? Like, the soldiers get like a bottle of like night pills and put them in their drinks.
Oh my God, I totally missed that.
Yeah, like there's a scene where they're on the couch and the soldiers take the pills and put them in the drink. And I don't know why, because like it looked like to me Phil Hartman didn't have a drink. But when he sees his wife is passed out, he like looks over and calls her name and then steals her water and starts drinking it. And it's the same water. And then he passes out too.
Oh, I somehow missed that. I'm sorry. Thanks for explaining that.
But I mean, oh man, this movie was just so weird, though, man. I mean, you go from that to the just pure nightmare fuel that was that doll creation scene.
Well, that was and also weird. And then there's a part before that when they see the dolls, and there's like all the weird sexual comments, and then like they're like looking around, like one looks at the bed.
Request for a 3-day pass, sir. Denied.
And then one of them looks at the bed, and I'm like, this is just really creepy. Like,
and these are all like 60-year-old men gazing at Barbies that are voiced by like 20-something women.
Did you see the? Did you guys see some of the box art for those faux Barbies? Where it said, "She's classy, she's trendy." Just all the dumb shit that they printed out and put on the actual boxes.
Well,
it's like, ridiculous.
It must be a Dante trope to just have like either generic bullshit or just like nonsense in the background. Because the company names Heartland Play Systems, could you get a name that was any more like, oh, the Heartland? Generic. And then Global Tech was even more generic sounding.
Yeah.
And I was just like, I feel like if I went on Twitter right now, I could hunt Dante down, like ranting about like, the globalist or something. It's just like the craziest thing.
Hey, how is he going to make a sweeping statement about people if he doesn't catch everybody with the name? Come on.
Or just like make movies about anti-technology stuff.
Oh my God. Yeah. I don't get Dante.
I also, one feeling I had watching this movie, which I think addresses some of the issues you guys talk about, it felt like a bunch of old guys writing a movie trying to be cool and hip. And it's kind of a similar vibe.
Not wrong.
Like when I hear Vince Gilligan, now stay with me here. When I hear Vince Gilligan talking about creating Breaking Bad and what they talk about in the writer's room. I don't know if you guys ever listen to those podcasts or hear his interviews, but he has a very like old guy sensibility to him. But I think he has some sort of spark of I don't know, we'll just say cool. He's got the cool. And the stuff he does is cool. But I feel like this movie was kind of made by the old guys that are just like, hey, wouldn't this be cool? Let's put in all these war quote movies and let's do this. And it feels kind of like, you missed the mark a little bit. And I feel like that's something that we didn't have in Gremlins 2, because Gremlins 2 wasn't really pointed toward teenagers. It was more just a broad takedown of the previous film and films in general, and so it kind of worked. And they bring in references like the Phantom of the Opera and against product placement and things. But in this movie, they had that same sensibility, but they didn't have the depth that they had in that other movie. And so they just throw one-liner after one-liner, and it kind of falls flat. There's some moments that are fun, and there's some moments that could have heart, but they kind of don't put enough attention on those. in my opinion.
Like, Gremlins 2 is dedicated to not being a movie, basically. Like, there's not...
True, yes.
It's not really a movie as much as it's like a variety show and some sort of torture porn and then this other thing. But this movie was trying to be different movies. Like, there's like the little romance plot line, which every one of these movies has. And like the romance plot line was actually kind of troubling because in this movie, the main male character is kind of a jerk too. Like he knows she's seeing this other guy, and then he comes into like, oh well, like you could see me too, and it's like that was a weird thing to do. And then there's this weird like,
well, Kirsten Dunst, her character's kind of weird because look at where I was actually headed toward this a little earlier. You look at where she's tied up and she's all scared and everything else, but then in like 2 seconds later she's giggling while kicking the shit out of one of these guys. And it's like, is she need medication? Is that why her parents take pills? Because she's on medication too? I don't understand.
And to shed some more light on this makes sense. When I was talking about this, I was thinking this movie for some reason reminds me of The Burbs, and it's Joe Dante directed The Burbs, so I feel like the neighborly tension that we feel is probably why I thought of that. And I think Bruce Stern was in that as well. I think he was like the crazy neighbor across the street. It's been a while, but it feels like this movie is kind of Joe Dante throwing in the stuff that he knows into one movie and just trying to see if he can make it work. Like Gremlins plus The Burbs plus Toy Story equals Small Soldiers, you know.
Well, I don't know if you realize this, but you said that, but Wendy Shaw, who was one of the moms, is also in The Burbs.
Yes, she was.
Yeah.
I was going to say, you know, one of the things that's really funny about this is that we have barely talked about Dennis Leary. And, you know, Dennis Leary has one of the
He's barely in the movie, though.
But he has one of the weirdest comedy careers, if you think about it. Because Leary's biggest moments, like, he, like, hop skips through time. Like he's some sort of, you know, I don't even know.
Hopefully,
like,
into the next comedy sketch will be the comedy sketch.
Yeah, exactly. Like he's on Quantum Leap. Like he had the whole big thing with the I'm an asshole bit, which he, by the way, stole from what's his face? Oh my god,
that one guy.
The other comedian.
That's probably why he swiped it, because Dennis.
No. This person is way more noteworthy. Louis C.K. Like, so he stole that bit from Louis C.K. way back when, and then he's just had this sort of career of hopping into pop culture. Like, remember he had that Rescue Me show.
Is it hopping? This thing, is it hopping or is it ranting?
It's leaping
into pop.
Well, yeah, he has like this. He has like these rants he used to do, and he starts one in the beginning of the movie, and I feel like they cut part of it because it starts very abruptly and harsh, and then it just kind of peters out real quick, and I'm like, that's not a real Dennis Leary rant. But then, like, he had that show Rescue Me, and then he vanished for a while. He popped up in the Spider-Man movies, and he's vanished again. Like, I just feel like he's going to just reappear somewhere else. And
I kind of like him as Captain Stacy.
Oh, yeah, I like Captain Stacy him. Like, that was really good.
I don't think you need to breeze past Rescue Me, because I think that showed his acting chops as well. I think he was a producer and a writer, maybe. But I personally think he has some acting chops. He just, especially in the 90s, he was caught in this, like you said, the ranting. This was very reminiscent of Demolition Man, which was a couple of years earlier.
I was about to say, if we did not bring up Demolition Man again, we'd be very remiss in not
making fun of my movie.
So he's, dude, I love that movie. You need to listen to our podcast, man.
The movie is so crazy. The Taco Bell thing. Oh my god!
Listen to our podcast.
I think we're gonna have a retrospective where we should do that on that with Justin.
But I would be down for that. We did lose half the recording.
I think that it's bad to blame Leary for that, though. I think it's a comedian thing. Like, there was that between Sam Kinison and like the mid 2000s, between like Sam Kinison and
don't
like
get me started on him.
What's his face? The guy no one can stand anymore.
Carlos Mencia?
No. The white dude.
I did it. I took a shot at Carlos. Come at me, Carlos.
Oh, I don't think Carlos Mencia has the gas money to get to you.
I was gonna say, I don't know if he has an internet connection.
Really, Carlos Mencia is living in a box somewhere. If he hears this podcast, he can totally come get me.
We'll have you on the
What's his
podcast, Carlos.
That would be
From the
hilarious.
Boval, taking a hard stance against Carlos Mencia.
Yeah, 10 years too
You can
late.
come on our show, Carlos.
Yeah, totally. We'll have you.
What's his name? He was in American Gods, by the way, too. I'm trying to look him
A
up.
white male comedian that nobody likes anymore. That's a wide net.
No, it's not.
Ooh, I could say some names, but I know I'm going to alienate some people.
No, you're not. Hold on.
I totally am.
Okay,
I totally
so-
am.
Kramer?
No. But early 2000s, popular. Hold on.
Jerry, the toys are alive.
You guys are making
Remake
this
Small
hard.
Soldiers with the cast of Seinfeld.
Oh my
I would watch
god.
that.
Let's do that.
Dane Cook. There it goes. Dane Cook.
They're alive, Jerry! I know they're
Dane
alive.
Cook?
Dane
Is it Dane
Cook.
Cook? Is it Dane
Oh,
Cook?
Dane
I was
Cook.
gonna
That
say
makes sense.
I was gonna say Dane Cook, but I'm like, there's some people out there that are diehard fans.
Wait.
Nail
You
me
know
to the
people
board.
who are diehard fans of Dane Cook. Like, that's the hill they're going to die
They
on.
listen to From the Bone Vault?
Who are these people?
I'm not saying.
Who are the
anything
cross
more.
section of people who are not
If you're a
trapped
fan
in
of
some
Dane
sort of
Cook-
Groundhog Day situation in 2004 who are also still fans of Dane Cook?
I'm pulling a Yakko at this point, and I'm going to pull out the "Good night, folks." And I'm not. No.
If you're
not
a
going
fan,
there.
if you're a fan of Dane Cook and you would like to defend him, please email us at fromthebonevault@gmail.com. We might even
Hey,
have you on the show.
We will
You
have
can
this
add me on
conversation.
Twitter at CTK86 because I want to find
There you
out
go.
if there's anybody out there who still has
Justin
the capacity to
Kanan.
use Twitter and
Tweet
also
him
like
the-
Dane Cook.
Whatever
Justin
the
Kanan-
symbol was, the finger
his
thing.
weird thing, his weird
weird
thing.
shocker-ish.
Justin Kanan, internet superhero, will debate you till you die on this.
There's
one.
there's no debate. Like, they cast Dane Cook in American Gods because he's so hateable. Like, it was intentional, and he needs to work.
Weren't we talking about a movie?
Strayed. We were talking about a movie called Small Soldiers. We went so far at the reservation.
This is what happens when we don't research.
Oh my god.
We have research.
No, I
So-
know we have researched.
I want to toss this out there, and I want to put it to the audience as well, because we are getting, I think, kind of toward the end here, and I want to make sure I get this out there. At the epic battle at the end of the film, and they're trying to get things set. They're trying to get this EMP blast to go off and nuke and mess up the chips.
All
right?
quiet on the Western Front. Yard.
He goes up the pole. He's up there. He's got his showdown with Chip. It's the end, and this is where we're gonna get our one-liner, because we've had all these guys from Dirty Dozens. We've had all these people. We've got this stellar cast. We've got this one-liners have been dropped through this entire movie, and his line at the end is, "You stupid toy."
Yes.
What?
Yeah.
I mean,
That was
No. That was unacceptable. I'm
Yeah.
like, you could. Did they let him just come up with his own line in that one, and that was what he came up
But
with?
Gil, was it worse than, "Hey kid, don't you like 9-inch nails?"
that
As
was
they're
pretty
shooting
good.
nails at him.
Well,
that's pretty bad.
what I'm trying to figure out also is, can you make an EMP like that? That doesn't seem right at all.
I was wondering the same thing
I
myself.
was like, you can like they were like, oh yeah, everything has an electromagnetic field around. I was like, yeah, that makes sense, but like a transformer wouldn't have that big a one. I don't think. Like, a nuclear weapon has an EMP because of a
I'm
reason.
wondering. Well, they even bring that up. They actually bring up
Yeah.
the nuke, and it's But like, I don't know. I wonder how many '90s kids went up and tried to f with that and actually create an EMP and went and wound up on the.
Well, I mean,
ground,
like
you know?
the steps they took to do it, the kid would have to have a lot of help. You had to have all
Yeah.
the appliances in the house running, and then blow the transformer. Which to me, it was weird how they did all that work. And then to have Kristen Dunst just get on a lawnmower and run over like 80% of the toys.
I love
I
that
was
part.
like, Kristen Dunst is doing all the work, and you guys could have just got a group of lawnmowers and weed eaters and stuff.
Alan's just wandering
dope would that have
around.
been?
Alan's just wandering around, not knowing what to do. She's running behind him, sweating, hitting things.
She was
and-
the hero of this film.
There should have been like a Home Alone-esque, like we lure them inside
Yes.
and like
That
have
would've
a
been
war
cool.
with them. And like,
So when we recast this with the cast of Seinfeld, are we going to have it be the Home Alone? They set up traps. Or are we going to have them come out with a fleet of riding lawnmowers and they just go to town on these guys?
I think you do the traps, and I think that in the recast, the Chip Commander one has to be the Rock.
And they eventually get them to go to Boca del Vista, and then all of the old people come out on their riding lawnmowers.
Oh my god!
That would
Well, I mean, I have like you're talking about like crossovers with Seinfeld. there's some crossover between Seinfeld and a lot of weird things, like Kramer and his pigmen and stuff, and it's just, you could bring all that in there.
Yeah. I do want to say something about how this movie is not necessarily dated in a lot of major ways. I think one thing they did is, besides the Spice Girls, which I thoroughly enjoyed on many levels, but I owned a Spice Girls CD, but that part was funny and kind of dated. But other than that, they used music that was not contemporary music, so that didn't really date the film. There were like Led Zeppelin, but there were a couple of things in the movie that definitely date it, and one of them was when they have the ransom tape, they send a VHS tape to Alan's room, which I loved. But the other thing was when Phil Hartman is putting up the satellite, and the neighbors are talking about, well, can't he just get a smaller satellite? And Mr. Abernathy says, no, I don't think those small things can get as many channels. And I feel like that's such a dated way to look at that.
It's not even
we
true,
had one
is
of
it?
those huge ones. Huh?
Is that even true?
It was probably in the 90s.
We never had a large dish like when I was in the 90s.
See,
we did.
My granddad had one when he's out in Mineola, Texas, is out in the middle of nowhere, and he had one of those massive dishes that, like, when you went to switch bands and jump between, you could literally go look at the satellite dish move in order to triangulate where it needed to be. Those things were awesome.
Well, I think that what was weird about that was that I started searching. I was like, is that a real thing? Because I used to work for a dish company, and I never heard that. And some of our customers still did have large dishes like in 2012. So, like, people still had those because they had put it up themselves, or they lived in like rural Alaska. And if you live in Alaska, you have to aim your dish at the ground basically to get signal, because the horizon is where the satellite is. So you have to aim like right across the horizon. And I was like, this doesn't sound like a lot of the technology stuff. Like, they just put the chip in the little head of people, and they just get a personality. Like, when they took the chip out of the one soldier and put it in the dolls, they should have just been like his personality. Clones
of him. Exactly. I think that would have been funnier. I had the same thought.
Way funnier.
Dude, it would have been creepy as hell. A whole bunch of female versions of him.
It was already pretty creepy.
That would have been So before we stray away from it, and so we make time for this because this was the best. Levi, you mentioned music, so let's talk about music in this film real quick.
You want me to tell you what I want? What I really, really want?
No.
Okay.
No.
I'm sorry.
I'll tell you what we talked about right before we started recording.
You know what,
guys?
I can improve upon this song, though. I can improve upon this, because the problem is that it's Bone Thugs. It should have just been LL Cool J singing about being a toy.
Gil's got to describe it.
Hold on. Let's set the stage here, guys. There is a Bone Thugs in Harmony featuring Henry Rollins remix of the song War. The War. Good God, y'all. And that's all I can do with fair use. We will put the link to the music video in the show notes, guys. Please do yourself the favor and go look at this video. Yeah. It is the craziest damn thing I have seen, and I watched this movie.
I don't think that's how fair use works, Gil. I think if you sing the song, it's okay.
It is in Gil's world.
It's actually in the movie. That song's in the movie, by the way.
It's at the very end.
Yeah. No,
this version.
I don't mean this version. I mean the actual song is in the movie.
Yeah.
The original. Yeah. Yeah. And it's I don't know what possessed them to say, like, this combination of things. They have, I think, 3 of the 4 guys from Bone Thugs in there, and they are in this post-apocalyptic, almost steampunk-like gear.
Well, Justin had a good descriptor for it.
Go ahead, Jay.
Oh, I said it was basically like a Bobo California Love video.
Yeah.
Right?
Which is already a Bobo, road warrior, so.
It was so weird. And I can't, and we talk about the 3D in this thing. They had the 2 main characters, Archer and Chip, synchronized with Henry Rollins and with the Bone Thugs guys, and rapping along with them. I can't parse this.
Well, I mean, I can see what happened was it was in '98, and it was close to the end of the decade, and the '90s had a very weird through line where you had like rock and roll was on a decline because by 2001, rock and roll was basically out of the pop charts. And you have like rap coming up, and you have comic, like they were trying to combine things. It's the same reason why you have like Super Bowl shows that are Coldplay and, you know, some other act that shouldn't be there with Coldplay or at all.
The rise of groups like Limp Bizkit around it.
Oh my God! Like, I'm so embarrassed. I used to like Limp Bizkit or Kid Rock.
Dude, hey, rap rock was a thing. It was seriously a thing. It was.
I mean, but like,
oh my God, it's two great tastes that taste great together.
It's like $3 bill, y'all, was the first that we should have known better then. And then like Kid Rock's even worse. And like that's what I think that they were trying to go for was that merger. And what's sad is that they could have just got a better group. It could have just been the Chili Peppers. It would have been fucking fine.
There is somebody that did this better. Go look at Space Jam. Space Jam did a song about the Monstars called "Hit 'Em High."
Yeah, that's a good song.
Soundtrack. It was excellent, and it was a star-studded rap group. It was LL Cool J, Busta Rhymes.
That song's better than the movie.
I can't remember. Oh yeah, true story.
Method Man.
You were saying that there's only 3 members of Bone Thugs. Was it like we need to look into that more. Was that like a thong song situation where they started out with everybody recording it and then everybody quit on the job?
Honestly, the quality on that video was so bad I couldn't tell.
Oh man, but I mean it's 98, dude. Like,
yeah, I did find it pretty terrible.
You're watching the video on like 18 times resolution screen than they had back then. Like, it's maddening how much better our screens are.
Well, that's not just it. The encoding of it and whoever ripped it, it's not a very high quality.
Was the file name still like WMV or whatever?
Probably. That's the name of the video on YouTube.
So, again, I'm probably going to get some angry emails on this one, but I can't pinpoint another actual like thing that I would say is in the vicinity of steampunk. Or I shouldn't say steampunk. Yeah, I guess steampunk would be the accurate thing. This video has a very steampunk quality to it, and I'm wondering if this was part of that inspiration. Because like Tank Girl had a very post-apocalyptic look.
Steampunk has origins before that.
Before 98?
They date back to the 60s or so.
Really?
There's some books. There's some books from the 60s that are alternate history. Like there's one of them where the Queen of England gets the nuclear bomb, and it's during the Napoleonic Wars, and it's basically about them deciding if they're going to use this bomb to stop Napoleon or find another way. And it's totally steampunk. Like, it's written in the 60s, and it didn't have a name yet, but it's the same way that some things don't have a name till way later. Like, you know.
But wasn't like the things that Jules Verne wrote and stuff like that?
Yeah, that's
wasn't
steampunk.
that like a progenitor to steampunk?
Yeah, like I mean, Jules
so
Verne's
it's not just a modern.
Yeah, he's just a weird dude.
Aesthetic.
Though, so,
and
before I forget, because we're getting close to the tail end of this beast here.
Yep. True story.
Is the post-credit scene, which Gail and Levi did not see. And it's not really a scene.
The movie off.
It's more or less. Well, here's what happened. I have an Apple TV, and I'm used to just checking the end of a movie now. So you just get your hand and slide over on the remote and see if there's a picture at the very end. If there's a picture there, then you know, oh, there's a post-credit scene. And I don't know why I did that, because this is not a Marvel movie or something modern that would have that. But I slipped to the end and I saw a scene. So you started up after the credits, and it's just a little blooper of Phil Hartman saying something. And just being like, oh man, like he messed up, and then it says "for Phil." I thought that was sweet because Phil Hartman died right after this movie, right before we released, or right after it released, and like that was a really big blow. Like news radio basically went off the air because of that, and Simpsons lost like half of their cast because he was playing everybody at that point on that show. And so when I first saw Phil Hartman, I was like, oh, this kind of endeared me to the movie because as a kid watching this, I didn't remember he was there. I didn't remember half of these people. I remembered Kirsten Dunst because this is back when I liked Kirsten Dunst. And like anybody else in the movie, I was just kind of like, I didn't realize they were there.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good point. Yeah. And yeah, Phil Hartman's definitely going to be missed.
Yeah, he's still
guys, I know. I think with that, I really think we can put the nail in this coffin and call it a night. Let's just do a quick round. What did you guys think of the film overall? Let's start with Justin. What were your thoughts on
this is kind of my first ever pick of this. Like I came up with the idea. it fared better than I remembered it being. Like, for all the shit we gave it, it was it looks a lot better than you expected to. Like, going into this, that was my big fear, was that it was going to look like someone was just moving toys in stop motion, but it totally looks almost like it could be made today. Like, even scenes where they're shooting with people in scene with the creatures, like we talked about on Gremlins, how every time Gizmo had to walk, it was like super jarring, and this is the complete opposite. I'm not even sure what DreamWorks did to make this look this good. Other than that, though, the movie it's just problematic. It's kind of bad. It's kind of it feels like it's early '90s when it really isn't, and it feels like they had a lot of different plot lines they really didn't get to do. They didn't really expand on anything they proposed, and then some of the characters are manic and bounce between two states without any real reason.
Right.
Like Kirsten Dunst is a good example. So I mean, like, it's not the worst movie ever. It's not Trolls 2, but it's also not going to win any awards either.
I agree. I guess I'll go next. I feel kind of similarly. I think it makes sense. I think, Justin, you brought up the fact that Joe Dante kind of started production on this film, or started the conception of this film, and they wanted to make toys from it. And I feel like this movie could have benefited from being a little more, maybe if it was rated R, it could explore some of those deeper ideas that it was brushing up against, and I felt like, I don't think it was, because I don't think they thought this far into it, but it almost seems like it's making some sort of statement about soldiers and war. I can't quite make out what it is.
It tries.
It tries.
Yeah, it tries, but I don't think it's very successful. I will say, before I say exactly how I felt about the film, I was reminded a lot of Avatar in this. Just the Gorgons being the big
noble savage.
Yeah, the noble savage, and then the military coming in, and plus Chip Hazard looks like that dude totally from Avatar. But yeah, the idea of the noble savage through Archer kind of reminded me of that. But anyway, I kind of feel like, Justin, the movie isn't as bad as I was thinking it would be, and the effects are pretty amazing for the time period, for 98. Yeah. And this is right on the heels of, I think Toy Story was 95 or 96. And so this was a few years after that. And the effects are different because they're meant to look real, whereas Toy Story is completely CG and, textured and everything. And I think it's very successful. And I don't know if we mentioned it or not, but Stan Winston had a hand in the effects. I'm assuming the practical effects. And the practical effects were cool. And I could tell, because of my 2017 eyes, where the computer effects started and the practical effects started. But that didn't make it a bad experience for me. And I think, technologically, looking at this movie, and also looking at this movie as a collection of a bunch of actors that I'm interested in, at least tangentially some of them, but some of them, like Phil Hartman, it's anytime I can see Phil Hartman on screen, I'm happy. And so I think this movie is enjoyable on that sort of surface level, and it does have some plot issues, but there were also some fun moments. And Dick Miller's character, we didn't talk much about him, but I thought his truck driver was a really good character, and he was kind of like a sane version of his character on Gremlins. Like maybe Marty, I think it was Murray had gone to some psychological counseling, and he had taken some medication, and now he just had this kind of cushy job, and he got his big payout at the end when Dennis Leary hands him a big check. But anyway, if you're looking for something that evokes the 90s, and you want to see some pretty decent special effects and hear lots of one-liners from war movies throughout the decades, then definitely check this movie out. And Gil, why don't you give us your opinion?
Yeah, I'll round it out. I don't know, for me, this was it was a trip down memory lane, because I remember all the advertisements surrounding this film. I remember watching it as a kid. Just a ridiculous amount of advertising around this one. And I had a different expectation coming in than when I watched it. I thought it was going to be I was going to feel the same way I did when I watched Critters again, when I watched Gremlins again. Mm-hmm. And I'll be honest, I didn't. I did not get that same sense of nostalgia and wonder from this film that I was hoping to get. To key off the practical effects side, I wish this movie had been solidly practical effects.
Yeah.
I think that the toy, like legitimate toy versions of them that talked, looked so much better. And I think the film would have been a little more endearing if we'd have been able to cuddle the toys, as it were. Let's just real quick jump into what Nim would think. Nim wouldn't even watch this film. He'd go, is that from the 90s? Hell no. And he'd move on with his night. Yeah, I mean, for me, it's worth a watch if you haven't seen it. But if you've seen it, I don't know if it's worth going back and watching again.
That's your choice to make.
But I will say this, definitely go watch that music video, because that is the most bonkers thing you're going to see.
Yeah, I'll put a link in.
I think that the music video really works better if you've seen the movie recently. And the other thing I'll say is that the effects in this almost seem like tentpole, because there's some movies that aren't necessarily good, but their effects are tentpole. And this and like Transformers 1. I remember when I saw Transformers 1, I was like, is that a real robot they built? Like, you couldn't tell. Yeah. And I think there's some things, and people always talk about Avatar and stuff like that, but like that movie had like all the money in the world. And I don't think this movie had that much money, and it still looks really good.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I said, I don't mean to dump on the actual graphics, but I think I'm just that guy that loves practical effects. You know what I mean? If I could make 3D effects go away until it's seamless, I would. Well, I want a puppet every time. I
think practical effects work best when they're used with CG cleanup. Like, the last Mad Max movie, everybody was giving it all this, like, praise about being practical effects, but the director was like, it's not all practical. It's a very, very careful mix of the two, and it works because of that. And so I think they were trying to do that with this movie, but they didn't have it yet because it was 98.
Yeah, they fell short.
Yeah.
But again, not a terrible movie. Not one I'd point at quickly. So I think that'll do it. Like I said, nail in the coffin on this guy. And I think our next film up to round out Mini Menace Month is going to be one that I am exceptionally excited to watch with these guys. We are going to be watching, to finish out Mini Menace Month, The Gate. And I am as excited as I can be, and I am so charged because that movie is insane. It's going to be fantastic. So, as always, guys, the two locations you can catch us on the web are fromthebonevault.podbean.com. That's fromthebonevault.podbean.com for our main site. As well, all roads lead back to Midnight Lair, the parent production for the entire production, as it were. That's midnightlayershow.com. Levi, if they want to email us, where do they reach out?
That's fromthebonevault@gmail.com. And we also will have all of these episodes eventually up on YouTube. If you'd rather watch there, just search for Midnight Layer on YouTube and you can find us there.
Excellent. And real quick, Justin, anything you'd like to plug at the end of the show here?
For me, I already plugged my Twitter, where you can come attack me about Dane Cook if you want. And that's pretty much it that's going on for me right now.
Cool. I think we got some things potentially in store down the road. I think you're still cooking up on the podcast realm, but we'll give you the make sure we get those out there at the end of the episodes. Levi, what about you? What you got coming out, buddy?
Well, actually, as we record this, tomorrow I'm going to release the first video in my Garage Movie Reviews YouTube channel. And
I'm excited.
Unless something horrible happens, you should be able to access it now. You can search Garage Movie Reviews on YouTube, and I'll also put a link in the description. I just talk about movies. So, yeah.
Yeah. That's going to be excellent, man. I can't wait.
Enjoy.
Just real quick, another product that is available that has Gil on it is a podcast I do with two other dad friends of mine called Hi Hungry, I'm Dad. It's three nerdy dads talking about nerdy dad fads. So it's a little more unfiltered than this one is. So prepare yourself if you come in. It's we use some choice language.
More unfiltered than me?
Yeah, I don't know. That's true. Not too many things are. Well, with that, guys, thank you for being with us tonight. And as always, I'm Gil.
And I'm Levi.
I'm Justin.
Stay scary and have a great night.
Roll out. Wait, that's Transformers. Never mind. It's late.